Second example, I have a lot of slides. I'll move quickly through this. Open government. Examples of mashups. If I had videos, I would play these for you. You can find them on YouTube. President Obama, many of us were thrilled when he was elected in his administration. He is the first social media president, the first YouTube president. These are not meant to be disrespectful, although there's plenty of disrespectful material on YouTube. These are mashups. These are coming forms of political expression. People can take images, can take film, can take music, and they can mash them up in different ways, upload them to the World Wide Web. In some countries, of course, YouTube is banned. YouTube is banned in Germany, YouTube is banned in Turkey, it's banned in many countries. But these forms of expression have become quite important, particularly to young people. So now something a bit more serious, but also related to social media and the web. Let's look at these numbers. 13 million individuals on the email list during the election received more than 7,000 variations of more than 1 billion emails. This is just during the presidential campaign. Unprecedented in human history. 5 million friends on more than 15 social networking sites. Nearly 3 million supporters on Facebook. After the election, it grows to almost 7 million. A president using Facebook? What's happening to our politics? Again, public administration can't be separated from politics. Close to 1 million friends in MySpace, 250,000 followers on Twitter. On the contributions, let me say America has a problem with money and elections and politics. I realize you have a different system, and many of us think that a system that isn't run on money is a superior system. But the web has been astounding in terms of raising money. $600 million in contribution, 3 million donors online. This meant they clicked, let's send him $20, let's send them $50, let's send them $10. And often these would be small contributions, but the same person would contribute multiple times. Why? Because the cost, the effort of doing so is very, very low. You don't need an envelope, you don't need stamps, you don't need to write a check. 3 million personal phone calls during the last 4 days of the campaign. A few weeks ago, I was with one of the co-founders of Twitter. He was one of the people who was part of the team that developed that application. These are some of the ways that the youth vote was brought in and was sustained, that people who normally would not have been active were brought in to this election. The co-founder of Facebook was one of the campaign managers. He's now working in the Obama administration. We developed a Facebook page, myBarackObama.com. The thing about this page is that not just that speeches could be put up, that pictures could be put up on the page, but that if you went to this page and you signed up to say, I want to be part of this, I support this candidate, you could start to organize volunteer groups as a citizen, and the tools would be on that page, connected to that page, for you to start organizing people. If you wanted to fundraise, there was an invitation to anyone, raise money for the campaign, set your fundraising goals, and the tools were there on the website. So it made it very easy for people. The 3 million donations came through this website. One question that came up was, after President Obama was elected, what do you do with all of this capacity and architecture? Now you're not campaigning anymore, now you're running. It's become the Organizing for America website. It's owned, it's run by the Democratic Party, and this is obviously a work in progress. This hasn't been done before, and we will see what the implications are. There was explicit reaching out to niche communities that are finding one another and that are active on the web. Latino communities, Christian communities, baby boomers, Asian Americans, you name it. Obama had a presence in their communities. Social networking, 50,000 pictures on Flickr, which, as you know, is an open access photo stream. Second Life, for those gamers out there who go into these simulated spaces. Obama campaign had a presence in Second Life. Let's look at some of the advertising dollars. $8 million spent on online advertising. I know the U.S. is unusual in this. $3 million on Google advertising. Look at the difference in the cost of television advertising, $300 million on television advertising. For just a year and a half, the McCain campaign spent only $132 million on television advertising. YouTube president, go back. Here's a conference that we did that's No Sure Contractor over on the Edge. And we have several interesting research papers on YouTube and the election cycle that came out of this experience that people are still analyzing. Everything you put on YouTube so far is free. So if people put their speeches, their platforms, their information, agency information on YouTube, it's free. More than 2,000 official YouTube videos were produced by the campaign. The videos were watched more than 80 million times. Joe Trippi, the campaign manager, said that the YouTube videos were more effective than television. Why? People could watch them when they want to watch them, not when the speech is put on television. They could watch more than once. They could rewind. They could watch again. They could embed the video in an email message and send it to their friends. So the use of the video material through YouTube is fundamentally different than the broadcast medium, where it's on once. If you didn't see it, you missed it. And the savings were enormous. You could never have had that kind of visual presence without YouTube. These web tools were used very explicitly to organize volunteers. This was not just putting information on the web, hoping that it would do some magic. Very clear campaign goals, very carefully managed campaign. The use of Web 2.0 was to send very detailed directions to volunteers. In our mapping tools, we could go down to the neighborhood level, to the block level. You would know through the information people had given to the website who was volunteering, where they were. People could be deployed at levels of granularity that were not possible before. So the web was an enormous force multiplier. Yes, people were organizing themselves, but there was a great deal of organizing of those volunteers through the campaign. So what do they find when they are elected and the Obama administration comes to Washington? I'll explain this mysterious grid in just a moment. They find a federal government that had already been involved since the late 1980s, intranets and electronic data interchange before the web, experimenting with how to use digital tools and digital systems to improve government. In the early 1990s, primarily because of Al Gore, during the Clinton administration, the U.S. had started one-stop shops. We had them before them. Seniors.gov, all of the information for senior citizens. Students.gov, all of the information gathered together for students. What this grew into over a period of about 10 years was to take all of the agencies in the government, those are the column heads, and then take all of the business functions in the government and to say which agencies are handling which administrative functions. This is not the creation of one huge database. This is very explicitly saying, where do we have redundancy in our systems across the entire government, and the U.S. government, as you know, is pretty big, and saying, we want to reduce that redundancy and we want to develop shared systems. Let me tell you that the impetus for this was, even at that time of prosperity, to drive down IT costs, because the operation and management budgets for IT systems across all of these different parts of the government were out of control. And so to simply say to all of your agencies, let's go out and build things, is just not going to happen. In the current economic environment, it's not possible, and it would not be a good idea because you just have budgets out of control. So the idea here was to bring that under control and figure out how much consolidation do we need, how do we wring the redundancy out of the system. Those projects are started in the Clinton administration. They continue in the Bush administration. This is the beauty of the civil service, because it continues. As different people are elected, as elected officials come and go, the civil service should continue to be building for the future. Here's the area of grants. We have more than 26 different agencies in the U.S. federal government that make grants. They all had their own systems. They all had their own methods. If you were looking for grants, a business, an individual, or an organization, you would have to know where to go. For their informated systems, we had loads of redundancy. So we've got that down now to about 3 systems in an effort called grants.gov, and they've been monitoring their costs. And the green line is the decreases in the costs. These are not the costs of grants. These are the costs of managing the grants and driving redundancies out of the systems. And the expectation is that you would see this kind of cost cutting because of productivity, no difference in service levels, but because of productivity across all of the policy domains in the government. There are a number of institutional developments that have gone on, building the CIO structure, changing laws where we needed to, changing the way budgeting is done. I've written about some of them. One of the books that is mentioned was edited by one of your countrymen, Gustavo Cardoso. We had a symposium on it. It was one of the trips to Lisbon that I mentioned. So these kinds of institutional developments are important. What did the Obama administration bring that was new? Open government, the 3 watchwords: transparency, participation, collaboration. This is the Open Government Initiative website. I should tell you a little story about asking citizens what they want, because you do have to be, we're learning a lot about how this works. Let me put it that way. At the beginning of the administration, in an effort to build participation on the website, said, tell us what the priorities should be for the new Obama administration. Lots and lots and lots of email. The idea is that they would be reading it, they would be prioritizing. What do you think was the #1 suggestion to the Obama administration as a government priority? Now it would definitely be jobs. I'm sorry to say this, legalize marijuana. Legalize marijuana. So when you put out the word to the public and you ask, what do you want? You have to know what parts of the public are going to get activated. There is a movement to leave for medicinal reasons in the United States. They clearly mobilized. They flooded the participation channels, and they're able to push their issue to the top. Is that democracy at work? I don't think any of us would say that that's democracy at work. So we have to be very careful. There's a reason we have representative government. There's a reason we have policy experts. We need to know what the public thinks, but you can't just go out and ask the public what they think and think that you're going to get a fully prioritized, fleshed out agenda for any agency.